So here on Pop Trigger, we talk a lot about celebrities, bands, movies, series, all that stuff. And I thought it'd be kind of an interesting opportunity for Amir and I to talk about which fandoms intimidate us or impress us the most over the years of covering different people in the public eye or franchises in the public eye. So with that said, I will kick it over to you, Amir. Is there one celebrity that when you know we have to run a story on them, you're nervous about or you're excited about because they have a really loyal fan base?
Yeah, definitely Beyonce. Lady Gaga now, too, after reading a couple more stories about her fans recently, they like attacked Ed Sheeran and it was pretty bad. And I would say Justin Bieber.
You think so?
Yeah.
Justin Bieber is definitely a polarizing person because I feel like whenever we've covered him, you get sort of equal backlash among fans who are diehard believers and then other people who just will trash him no matter what. Even if it was like Justin Bieber donated his body to science. What a martyr. It'd be like, oh, this guy's doing it for the attention. Baby was a bad song, you know? I think that fandoms that intimidate me are the ones that are either from artists or bands who have broken up. So I think of One Direction. Their fan base is incredibly loyal because the band doesn't exist anymore. So I think that whenever you sort of go after or you're reporting on one of them, they're more likely to really hold your feet to the fire because that's all the reporting is kind of all that's left. They're not coming out with new music anytime soon. So that's one that sort of intimidates me. And then also a fan base where they're sort of under the radar still, is 21 Pilots. The Skeleton Clique is what they call their fans, and they're insanely loyal. But because 21 Pilots is a very big band, it's very popular. They still, to me, they don't seem like mainstream yet. And so the fans still feel like there's so much to prove. Like, look at how talented this band is. So they will definitely sort of come after you.
Right. So one fan group that's both intimidating but also probably one of the best, just hip hop fans in general. Like, they're an amazing clique because they're, by and large, they're good people. And I'm talking more like old school hip hop.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, I feel like.
No, I'm not talking about like the fucking Migos fans and shit like that. I'm talking about people who are into like.
So you don't like Migos fans?
No, I'm talking about people who like real rap. But at the same time, if you don't know your shit, you will get called out viciously. And like that's why I try to avoid talking about hip hop that much. As much as I like to believe I'm like some hip hop head and I listen to like everything, but I don't know my shit like the way the actual fans do.
Well, I would say that any musical genre outside of sort of top 40 pop will have a very strong cult base. So I'm a big metalhead, and that is really intimidating to talk about.
I don't think anyone knew that until you just said that.
No, I've talked about, I've talked about that before.
I know you've talked about
But so that's something really intimidating to talk about because people have very strong views on metal. And if you are in a conversation with someone and say that they hate Megadeth and love Metallica or the reverse or something like that, and you're caught on the wrong end of it, or you can't remember a song, or it can be down to band lineups too, because people will really know their stuff, and that's intimidating. You better know what you're talking about before you enter into that conversation.
I'm a big fan of Tool, but like I would never like engage like I knew anything about them.
Yeah.
Though I love all of their music, but I would not pretend like I know anything because I would get crushed.
I think I would rather go in being like, yeah, I listen a little bit, and then impress them, than like, oh, love metal, which I already said I'm a metalhead, so I'm screwed now.
So are you part of any fandom?
That's a good question. Selena Gomez.
Of course.
But I don't know if I am because I don't follow any fan accounts.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of being in a fandom. I'm definitely, but she calls her fans Selenators, and I still don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Selenators.
Selenators?
Yeah.
Selena, sure. I would consider myself that,
You're a Selenator?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of hers. And I'm trying to think if there are any sort of, well, Drag Race.
I was gonna bring it out. RuPaul's fans are amazing.
Yeah, well, they're amazing, but that's another example of sort of under the radar, haven't really broken mainstream yet. Like if you're talking about old school hip hop, you're talking about metal, you're talking about Drag Race. Now Drag Race, people might argue, is now mainstream. But if you are a core fan, like I would consider myself to be, a lot of newer fans of the show will not sort of get the same sort of trivia knowledge that you will have, that you just inherently have from watching it for so long, from keeping up with the queens on all their social media accounts. So Drag Race fans can be great because you know that RuPaul preaches love. However, they can also be vicious when it comes to slights or shade being thrown by certain queens. So that's something you definitely want to be careful about. And that's intimidating too, but more so for if you're really a part of like a fandom, like if you're a stan, I guess is the word for it. For me, I just very passionately love the drag queens I love, and I would never go after drag queens that I don't love. What about you? Are you a part of a fandom?
I'm not.
You are, I think, with a.
I'm a fan of things, but like I've never been part of a fandom.
What about like anime?
No, that's more Hasan's thing.
But you like anime.
I like anime, but like I would never claim to be like a huge fan of anime. I'm like maybe video games.
I will say,
yeah.
Well, I want you to think of a fandom that you would think you're part of, and while you do that, I will say
Dark Souls.
What's that?
It's a video game series.
Oh yeah, you would be a yeah. So you're like a video game person.
Yeah.
Because you play video games.
Yeah,
a lot.
and I actually, yeah, I guess so. I cherish some of the directors of video games.
Would you ever cosplay as a
I've never thought about it.
But now you're thinking.
Yeah, but now I'm thinking about it. If someone were to make me like a dope costume,
what would you go as?
Like a fucking really cool knight or something. I'd want a big sword. Like I would have to have some kind of enormous sword. Yeah, shut up.
Is that a euphemism for something?
Shut the fuck up.
No, another thing I was gonna say is this is sort of just random. A fan base that always will come after me on Twitter, so not just in the comment section, but will find me on Twitter, is Iggy fans, Iggy Azalea. If we ever have done a story on Iggy,
like Iggy Pop.
There's usually Iggy Pop. Yeah. Iggy Pop fans are vicious. No, Iggy Azalea, whenever we've covered her, there's always been some sort of personal, not necessarily backlash, because I think backlash is so dramatic for like 2-3 people reaching out to me on Twitter. But there have been people that have been like, hey, this is what I disagreed with, or I think that you got this right, or I'm glad you're coming around, or blah, blah, blah.
Sound like very reasonable fans. They're just like very polite about it. They're like, you know, I respectfully disagree with what you said, and here's my evidence to support my claim.
Listen, you reap what you sow. I have been called out on social media before, and I always respond with thank you, and I will try to do better, because I don't think that anyone necessarily no one comes for me wanting an argument. If you've seen it, I would be awful. I just roll over. Like no one really wants me. No one really expects if they're like, I'm gonna go after Grace and she's gonna lose her mind. Like it's more like I'm gonna come after Grace and you're like, I'm so sorry, and I would like to invite you over for dinner later. But I guess we want to toss it now to you guys in the comment section below. Do you belong to any fandoms? Have you been a part of a fandom and then left because you didn't like the environment or whatever? What fandoms impress you or intimidate you? Let's talk it all out in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and we will see you next time on Pop Trigger.